Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be a guide on one of my favorite heroes in Dota 2 currently, and I think he is one of the funnest by design, and that is going to be Primal Beast. So today we're going to be talking about all the things that make this hero what it is, not only in the current meta, but just understanding him as a whole, and exactly what you can think about when playing Primal Beast. So for the sake of this video, it is only going to be Primal Beast core, focusing on the mid and the off lane, but we're going to be talking about everything there is to know about him. So before we get started, one of my reasons I love Primal so much is that he only takes about 5 to 10 games to really understand him. As you can see, I've only played him 41 games, but I feel confident enough to give you guys a hero guide today. And my win rate was pretty high with him pretty much from the get-go, because yeah, there's going to be 1 or 2 games where you're trying to understand his spells and you're going to be pushing your limits a lot on the hero, but his kit is going to be straightforward. And once you guys understand him conceptually from this guide, I'm confident with just a few games, you guys will be able to own with him as well. Let's go ahead and get started. So first game we've got here as an example is Primal Beast in the mid lane. Now, the thing about Primal Beast that's really important to note is that his abilities don't trade very well. In theory, you would think that Uproar, which means that every time you take 50 damage, you get a stack. Once you use it, you get damage as well as armor. You would think that this ability helps you trade. But the problem with Primal Beast is that he has really bad attack animation and just really slow attack speed. So it makes it very difficult for him to trade even with Uproar. Most heroes that harass you a lot, they're either ranged or they're melee heroes like Shaker that have like Aftershock or some other passive that you simply can't trade with. So Primal Beast at the end of the day trades horribly. So in the mid lane, we generally avoid leveling Uproar. There are a few matchups where you'll want to take it. Heroes like Pangolier that have instances of damage that easily stack up your Uproar is worth considering, but the majority of the time, we just stick with our first 2 spells. So when it comes to CSing in the mid lane, the first spell we'll almost always take is Onslaught. Because it is 90 damage, keep in mind that it is physical, so it's not 90 magic damage against melee creeps. Melee creeps have 2 armor, so instead of an actual 90 damage, it's more around 80 damage against melee creeps. But it's the only spell that he has that really helps him secure CS. So as we play out the first wave, you'll see that, you know, I'm trading with Earthshaker a little bit since he doesn't have Aftershock yet, but I'm even going to use my Q to get that first CS. Now, keep in mind that since in the early game, you know, we are going to go for a bottle since we're mid, this hero doesn't really have much else to use mana. Like, Trample's really cheap, and it's on a pretty long cooldown, and same with Onslaught. Like, it's a pretty high mana cost, but it is a long cooldown as well. So I usually run out of health before I run out of mana, so I kind of try to balance the two on this hero, more so than other heroes, and you'll see that that's why I try to use the Onslaught as early as possible. So what's so cool about Primal Beast is you'll see amongst many matchups, there's not really much he can do in regards to actually like winning the lane super hard. The only way he wins the lane is by actually killing the opponent or doing things that zone them like this, right? I zoned the guy, made him use his spells, and almost got a deny. So specifically in this lane, you're going to see that I tried to level Uproar thinking I might be able to trade with him, but it didn't even work out that well. So this is an example where I was like, oh, I'm going to level Uproar. And then I was like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have leveled Uproar. And we're going to see that, like, what ends up happening in a lot of Primal Beast matchups, especially ones where he's unfavored, like against Earthshaker, is you end up dodging any and all interaction. And this is what I mean by what makes Primal Beast so strong as a hero concept, is the idea that Trample allows you to quickly clear waves and then just leave. This applies to the off lane as well as the mid lane, and we're going to be seeing that come out in just a second here. So notice how I'm pretty much just defensively aggroing, not really trading anymore. You saw me literally go for one version of trading there with Uproar, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't work. So usually, like, if you want to try a certain matchup and be like, maybe Uproar will be good here, you can do exactly what I did. Some of them it might work, but in this case, I was like, okay, that sucked. So notice how Earthshaker's going to go for the rune, and I'm just going to quickly clear as many creeps as I can. And that's what Trample allows you to do. It clears most of the creep wave even level 1, and you see that that's why you get the bottle, and then you just go straight for boots. Because since you're not really interacting with the opponent all that much, you're just going to go stack a camp, pick up a bounty rune. Notice how I only missed like 1 or 2 creeps. In this case, I only missed 1 to pick up a bounty, get bottle charges, and then I'm going to come back to lane, clear it as fast as possible with Trample in all these bad matchups. And I should have charged towards bottom because that's where the other bounty rune is. So it was a little bit of a misplay by me there. But you can see what I'm going for, right? walk around the map at pretty decent movement speed. 310 base is really high. Pick up both bounty runes. Yeah, I'm missing a creep or two. I'll be a tad under leveled, but then I just come right back to mid, defensive aggro, avoid all interaction. This is what you can do in any hard matchup. Good matchups, you'll be looking to kill the guy with this trample combo. But a lot of times, if people are any good, you know, they'll pick these heroes that own Primal Beast in lane. Because this is his one stage where it's like, okay, maybe I can't dominate. So as you see, like, this is where the stack pays off. This is level 3 trample. This is your skill build pretty much every game. The only exception is that I usually go 2-3-0, right? But the max trample is absolutely essential as it's your damage, it's your farming. And notice how I'm like, okay, quickly clear the wave, defend tower. And then I'm going to go home because I know that Earthshaker is likely going to get level 6 off this wave. And I have a catapult to even shield the wave a little bit. Notice how it's not going into tower yet. And so I'm just going to reset resources real quick, come back full HP so I don't die to this Echo Slam. And then we're going to do the same thing, rinse and repeat, right? Even using ultimate to clear wave. And then just get out. Go for the rune. Doesn't work out this time. But this is the part about Primal Beast that's so strong. Its ability to just hunt kills on the map nonstop, right? He can just walk around, and then he walks back into lane. And if I have trample, I clear wave instantly. In this case, since Earthshaker's not here, I'm not going to use the mana. But this idea that trample clears the wave instantly is so powerful because then you just leave. Like, that was so fast, right? And this frees me up to make a rotation. So in this case, I see them going for my Wisdom Rune with an illusion. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go pressure. We clear the wave. The carry's out of lane. And even though I killed nobody, right? I didn't kill the carry. I made him leave lane. Like, his illusion's showing now, but not his actual hero. And I missed 0 creeps. So it's really important to think that as a mid laner, the amount of time you have to rotate is based on the time between creep waves. So since Primal clears the wave in like 3 seconds, he has a whole 27 seconds to roam around the map. And then like another 10 seconds where if like the enemy mid's pushing the wave like this, where I haven't missed a single creep, right? And the only thing we need to be concerned about when we're rotating as a mid laner in general is that we're not missing farm. So I go pure movement speed items with the bottle to make this exact game plan happen. I pretty much do this every single game. So in this particular case, I look to pressure a bit more while missing a creep. And I was like, okay, it's not going to work out. Go back to mid for the 8-minute rune. Already used trample to clear that wave. So I'm going to use my ulti this time. And notice how it's all just low cooldown, roam around the map. And by being here, I want you guys to emphasize that I'm going to go kill this guy, like the enemy offlaner, if he's showing in lane. But by going off map in high bracket, like the enemy sees me leave, right? They know I'm not mid anymore. They're going to be scared. So this means that if they are showing, kill them. If not, just jungle in the area, and then you can look to rotate back to mid. In this case, I'm hunting the Razor off lane. Pretty straightforward kill and walk away. And this is what Primal's so good for. He also freely does jungle camps along the way. Trample, very low cooldown spell, very low mana cost. I like to go for Tumbler's Toy, Fairy's Trinket, maybe the Occult Bracelet. Pretty much anything that gives you mana, spell damage, or in the case of Tumbler's Toy, the little jump is really nice. Arcane Ring. Those are really, like, even though Primal Beast is a strength hero, he is a spellcaster through and through. So the fact that he's a mobile hero, he has an ability Onslaught that can move him, right? But he's also the highest strength gain in the game. Notice how I'm using my HP to just like tank an Echo Slam, force reactions. Notice how I forced a reaction up here. I forced a reaction in the mid lane. And then I use my high mobility to just walk away. So the options for the first item on mid Primal, I go Kaya Sange this game because they have a lot of BKB piercing abilities and I just want the status resistance. It's either like Kaya Sange, BKB, Blade Mail, Blink. All these things are reasonable items. I sometimes even go Drums as like a low cooldown, just consistent ganking, buffs up the damage of your trample. So let's take this moment to quickly talk about his spells, right? Onslaught can be purged. That's really important to note. So if you're like Shadow Demon ultied or like there's an Enchantress or an Oracle, they can purge you out of this. That's really important to note. It is a purgeable buff, also countered by Nullifier. Secondly, Trample is an ability that triggers every 140 units that you travel. So you got to keep in mind that if you're looking to CS and you don't want to miss your creeps, you can trample and then like hold position and then move, hold position, move at the right times in order to get the damage. And then Uproar, what's so broken about Uproar as an ability is the level 15 talent, which is the beast dispels himself when activating Uproar. So most of the time, the way people deal with these tanky strength heroes is items like Spirit Vessel, debuffs like Veil, you know, the way that they can chew through all of this HP HP is by debuffing you. So the fact that this hero is the tankiest hero in the game with mobility built in and a built-in dispel at level 15, I think they're going to nerf it by level 20 at some point. It's one of the most broken talents in the game. This is what makes Primal just have really no unplayable games. It's important to note that since his ultimate now pierces BKB, you need to ask yourself, the power of your hero is either going to be to tank damage and throw yourself in with your first 2 spells and then dispel yourself with your 3rd spell. In that case, it's because the enemy has a lot of BKB cancels or saves. In this case, they have Treant Overgrowth. Or the other option is to be a Blink ult with BKB on. That's a BKB piercing, single target disable that just, ruins the enemy carry or mid. So if the opponent lacks BKB piercing abilities, then that build's more reliable. Otherwise, you just throw yourself in. So items that give Primal Beast what he needs: Heart of Tarask, Ags for breaking heroes with key passives and just throwing yourself in the fray. That's more with like the 1st and 2nd ability build. Shiva's Guard, Strength Blink, Lotus Orb, all these items that just throw you into the fray and soak as many spells as possible. As a Primal mid, you're going to build more items centered around yourself, and you'll see in the next replay that Primal Beast offlane can tend to go a bit more team items, maybe like Pipe. So this is your role as a Primal Beast. You're going to see that we're starting a gank. I have full HP, and I'm going to go in with a DD, which buffs up the trample, force a bunch of spells on me, taking a bunch of damage, playing to as much of my limits as possible, allowing my teammates to dish out the damage, and then I just walk away with low HP. And this is a lot of Primal games. One of the most important skills to learn on Primal is how much damage can you tank without dying. And the only way to learn this is to throw yourself the fuck in there, boys. That's how you do it. So yeah, Primal, all about limit testing. You can use your ultimate to clear creep camps like this, super low cooldown. You can clear multiple camps at once with trample. You can even like trample, then blink to the next camp if you have that item. And so he's kind of similar to the likes of like Storm and Lesh, where you farm with all your mana back to base. You need to make sure you're full HP instead of full mana because you're a hero that utilizes your HP, as you saw there. So I'm going to go back to base, get my Kaya, and then I'm ready to go. So like pretty standard mid farming rotations. The key things to note about Primal is because you have so many ways of clearing waves and you clear them so fast, play off map as much as possible. And if you're going to clear waves, just do it like this, right? Where you just go whoop, and then you walk away. And then you go whoop, and then you walk away. So notice how much time I'm spending showing on creep waves. That's absolutely essential for Primal Beast. Absolutely essential that you don't just sit there auto-attacking creeps. That may seem basic to a lot of you guys, but one thing that makes Primal so broken is I could have gone through the portal right now to help my guy bottom. I could just be jungling, but this idea of always being a constant threat off map, combined with the fact that he only has to show on lanes for a split second because of the like onslaught plus trample, instant clears the wave. I'll use trample if I feel perfectly safe. I'll use the combination of the two to just charge through the wave and leave if I feel like that wave might be a bit dangerous. Making sure I'm pretty much at every single fight, absolutely essential. And this is what mid Primal does. He kind of just snowballs the map in a way where lanes get pushed in, constantly being able to fight. And this is what a good game is going to look like. And if you have a bad game, you're going to do the exact same thing, but you're not going to get kills. That's pretty much the only difference. You come back the same way, just split farming creeps, being an absolute nuisance. Notice how I'm just like, making sure that I clear up these waves and leave. It's so easy to get farm as this hero as long as you're not dying consistently, right? So like 1 or 2 deaths, be very careful of getting the 3rd, 4th one by like overextending into team fights, and start valuing your ability to show briefly and get the fuck out, and whatever that takes. So usually you'll itemize like 1 item for the map, which means like you're not going to die to ganks, maybe like a Blade Mail, Blink, a BKB, and then 1 or 2 items for fights. Ags, BKB can also be a fighting item, Blink can also be a fighting item, Heart of Tarask. So think about it as like your number 1 priority is to survive on the map. Kaya Sanj is like a snowballing version of all of these. It gives you the farm rate as well as survivability, but it doesn't help you a ton in either regard. It's like a luxury version. I'm having a good game, so I can go Kaya Sanj. And that's like the way we want to play Primal Beast. This game is going to be an off-lane example where we talk about the laning stage briefly, comparing and contrasting it to the mid lane, and then we're also going to be showing you some late game scenarios so you guys have a good idea of Primal Beast's role as the game goes on, which is kind of similar no matter what core role he's playing. So because Primal Beast doesn't trade very well, we talked about that in the mid lane, there's just a lot of defensive aggro in the off lane. Just a lot of like pulling creeps away from the opponent, pulling creeps away, like we're not really trying to trade with this Slark at all. So notice how defensive aggro, pull the lane back. I'm honestly not defensive aggroing enough. I'm kind of flaming myself in this replay. But you're seeing that I'm not really trying to trade. I'm not trying to do anything fancy. Using my Q to get a quick CS and then defensive aggro, defensive aggro, defensive aggro, defensive aggro. Notice the trends here, right? No trading involved. We're going to look to only all in if possible. And that's pretty much the way we want to play the lane as Primal Beast. Like, it's not really that fancy. You can get level 3 timing with 2 points in W as well as a point in Q, and that's really good kill. And so one thing about Primal that you're seeing here is if the opponent stacks the small camp, which is usually a huge threat to like pulling and, you know, denying you an entire wave of XP, you can just clear it. Very low investment of mana, and it doesn't cost you much HP because you kill it so fast. So that's a little tidbit to make sure you guys utilize. Don't let the opponent get stack camp pull off. Because as Primal, they just can't do that. That's not a mechanic they're allowed to abuse. So if you're a 5 lane, a 5 position against Primal, strongly consider just single pulling the small camp rather than stacking it. So if it's a lane against a ranged carry that's going to right-click me a lot, I'll likely go like bracers, maybe like a ring of protection towards Soul Ring. It's like one of those things where I'm either avoiding trades at all costs, or if the opponent's more so forcing me to take harass, I can consider Vanguard or like double bracer. But against heroes like Monkey King, Ursa, Slark, these like passive heavy heroes, I'm just going to rush phase boots, as you see here. Take a quick trade with Trample, then walk away. And when I say trades, remember guys, it's like quick all-in use of spells, and then we're chilling. Super Bing chilling, defensive aggro, defensive aggro. Defensive aggro, right? Like anytime Slark walks up. And now we have phase boots. We're just a huge threat to this guy, right? Doing a ton of damage and then walking away. So one thing that's nice about Primal, as you can see, is if I get low, same idea as mid, look at what I can do. I can just trample the wave and go base. And even though I'm going base as an offlaner since I have phase boots, I'm going to miss 2 creeps. Like, or 3 creeps it looks like. Because I end up going for the Wisdom Rune, right? And so this is like one of those circumstances where like it's just not that big of a deal to have to go back to base, to go pick up bounty runes as mid because of this mechanic. So one thing that's nice about Primal is you can roam super early on in the game. So notice how my lane didn't feel that good. If I have a really good lane matchup or I'm like fine to sustain in lane, as you can see like against ranged heroes, I'm going to buy more laning items. But against heroes like Slark, Monkey King, I don't really want to be in lane for very long. So I just buy phase boots, and once I have phase boots, I can just run around. So part of this first rotation, killing the IO, saving my safe laner, right? And then I'm happy to just continue this fight because, like, I don't care. I'm a freaking Primal Beast level 5, and then I can go back to lane. So no matter what core role you play as Primal, you have a lot of, like, options for doing this and just leaving, right? They have 3 heroes to try to gank me. I just leave. And I'm super tanky. Once again, highest strength gain hero in the game with a mobility spell. Farm my way back to base. Instead of a bottle, I just have Soul Ring. And you guys are kind of getting the picture that, like, if you're in a bad game for Primal, you can just cut creeps. You can just walk up to the wave and trample it really quickly. And your goal is to just be on map as little as possible. You just don't have to be, right? So if you're in a good game, you use that to quickly go kill somebody afterwards. If you're in a game like this, where I'm off lane, I'm not having the best game, even though I'm 3-0, I'm not having the best game, I can just use it to avoid ganks and quickly farm and go back to base. So we're going to fast forward to some late game team fights. So in this game, because they have a lot of mobility shits between Slark and Anti-Mage, even Invoker, I had to do like a BKB Blink build. I'm learning that if I don't feel like my ulti's reliable, in this case they have Reflect from the Anti-Mage as well as Dark Pact from Slark, then I'm gonna go for like the Ags in order to just break them. So I'm just gonna use it as an extra damage, a way to disrupt the fight. And notice how like on the map it's no different, right? Quickly clear waves, join up with my team, and look to take fights, right? So my goal is to basically soak as much damage as possible in the fight and draw as much attention to myself as possible. So you're going to see I go in, Blade Mail on, using my Ags to break the Slark, as well as just getting that extra damage in, saving my BKB since I'm not actually getting focused, grabbing the support, holding my BKB to the last second. And notice how pretty much every game I play Primal, whether it's an early game fight or a mid to late game fight like this one, I just have like virtually no HP at the end of the fight. So if I'm having an insanely good game, that's why I'll go for Heart of Tarrasque super early if possible. You can even get it like second item, because this is what Primal looks like every game. So this is like a noob death where I'm trying to like do a cool little move since we're, 5 heroes against 2, but I got caught by myself and the enemy team just outplayed me there. So notice how I was like trying to cut creep waves, trying to min-max, and the game plan's the same even if I'm dying doing it. I'm happy to push my limits on this hero. It's obviously a mistake, but the way you play like mid to late is quickly showing on creep waves, setting your team up for success on the map, like we talked about already, and then just throwing yourself the hell in. So we're going to watch a couple more fights to end the video. Gonna throw ourselves in. The blade mail kind of like buys us some time where the opponent doesn't want to focus us. Grab the IO once again. And we just overwhelm them with the fact that we have 3,500 HP with virtually no strength items. And just make them have to run from us or focus us. So games where like their best option is to turn around and hit you. Blade mail's really nice, or to cast spells on you. If they're more so like silencing and controlling you, blade mail's much less impactful. But if they can only really defend themselves with damage spells as well as right-clicking you, that's when blade mail's pretty strong. So notice how I don't really do tower damage, so I take the time that the enemy team's dead to clear waves, and then by the time they're respawning, I join back with my carry that's hitting base. So Primal doesn't take objectives, but he's all about like setting up the map. He's like basically plays lanes like a carry, right? He just clears lanes really fast. He tries to get them for himself. He scales really hard with these items. So we're going to see a very similar team fight here from me on Primal Beast. I'm going to throw myself in. Blade Mail, Havoc Hammer's an insanely good neutral on him, as you saw, like, sucks people into you. BKB, soaking up all the damage. Holding on to my Uproar for, like, a Dispel or potentially breaking, but Slark never went on me, so I used it. And these prolonged fights for Primal, especially if you were to have a heart, would be even better. But in this case, I just, tank so much damage and then come back to the fight looking for more. I'm happy to buy back on Primal because he has virtually no cooldowns. His only cooldown really is BKB. So you see here, like, very high impact buyback hero. I got back to the fight really fast. Don't be afraid to buy back on him unless you're just, like, absolutely useless without BKB that game. But you're basically getting the message, Put yourself in there. Don't be a pussy. Primal Beast. Super fun hero in the late game, outputs a ton of damage. You pretty much always take the talents that I have here. Exceptions are if they have like almost 99% magic damage, I'll take the resistance at 10, and that's pretty much the only exception, unless they have like a ton of roots and slows for the level 25 talent. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on Primal Beast. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you guys think. See you guys next time.